KBLA Talk 1580 is in the lab right now, prepping some new shows coming your way soon. More empowerment, more inspiration, more entertainment.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jazz Urbane Hour. I'm your host, Bill Banfield. We are a curated musical show that highlights contemporary cultural issues and artistry, showcasing music as a relevant and necessary arm of contemporary cultural identity.
You must learn.
Welcome. I am your host, Dr. Tyrone Howard on KBLA Talk 1580, and you're listening to You Must Learn, where we talk about education as a tool for transformation. Education in our homes, in our schools, and in our communities. Education for transformation is the tagline, and we are here to talk about why we must learn.
KBLA Talk 1580 is for discerning listeners just like you. So tell all your friends you've discovered the talk station curating smart content for smart people. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got you black.
Boy, there's a great song. Shouts out to Heavy D.
I got nothing but love for you, baby. I got nothing but love for you, honey.
Whatever.
I got nothing but love for you, baby.
What you got?
I got nothing
Very
but
underrated
love
album,
for
too,
you.
by the way.
I got nothing but love for you, baby. I got nothing but love for you, honey. I got nothing but love for you, baby.
What you got?
I got nothing but love.
You got to give me a verse on that.
I got nothing but love for you, baby. I got nothing but love for you, honey. I know you want lots of Jews and stuff.
Come on.
Backyards with swimming pools, bars with stools and stuff, fancy foods, lobster, sushi, yeah, Versace, Gucci,
Crazy Lucci.
I know your ammo, you do demo on a paycheck. You get a herd from the bourbon, show them no respect. Middle name, price tag, first name, gotcha. Start a stroke out on a roll, now they can't stop ya. Talking about, hey boo, how you do? Some clown uptown said you ran through, it's true. I give you props and your credit cause it's due. But I ain't that clown and my crew ain't that crew. Woo! Time's too hard to be faking like I'm dating on some staking, whining and dining. I ain't tricking on no chicken. Leave it up to me, I close the whole damn store on ya. I got nothing but love for you.
Happy birthday, Heavy D. Danny Morrison Show, KBLA Talk 1580. Who should have been in the top 50 hip-hop artists of all time? That is a travesty that Heavy D wasn't in the 50. That's all I'm saying. But Gucci Mane was, though. Don't get me started, man. You've heard many of my Post 101 interviews, and tonight is a special one for sure. I have a wonderful and tireless advocate from the LGBTQ community coming that I've been working alongside for a number of years. I couldn't connect the dots to get my man Lucky Alexander from Invisible Men on the mic tonight, but she has been a tireless advocate for years, and quite the sufficient replacement, I might say. Her name is Whitney Waddell. Some of you might remember her from being on the Danny Mo Show sometime last year. Tonight she stops by to give her thoughts on the controversies surrounding Bud Light and Target and the LA Dodgers and so much more. Ladies and gentlemen, inside my Post 101, give love to Whitney Waddell.
Hi, Danny.
How you doing, huh?
Yeah, life's good. School's almost out, and it's going to be summer soon.
Yeah, summer down there. By the way, my girl Whitney is in Bakersfield, California. Was it 125 degrees today? Well, how hot was it today?
Something like that, yeah.
I always tell people, what they say, why is it called Bakersfield? I say, because the root word is bake. That's why. It's Bakersfield. It's crazy.
Yep, that's right.
How are things with you and the fam bam, huh?
You know, life is good, as I mentioned. You know, there's, 6 more days of school, and then I'll be spending the summer in San Luis Obispo where it's nice and cool.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. You know, we're going to get into a lot of topics involving the LGBTQ community, but I just want to kind of ask you an overarching question. Do you feel what I feel? There is a groundswell of hatred like I've never seen before geared towards your population of people. It seems worse than it's ever been. I don't know who's driving it. It might be Ron DeSantis. It might be Trump. I'm watching Marjorie Taylor Greene, who ain't doing us no favors either. Do you feel the same way? Like things are more scary now than they've ever been. Is that fair to say?
I wouldn't say ever. You know, in the period between, say, World War II and 1969, the Stonewall riots, it was pretty ugly then. But it was so common and so accepted that it it didn't stand out in the same way that it stands out now. The same kind of vitriol and laws being made to police our bodies and police our lives existed in those days, right? And people couldn't be out at work. You could lose your job. You could lose your family. I mean, there was a million things. And right now, that's what's happening. Is there's a goal, I think, on the right wing to pass as many laws as possible so we could go back to that.
Does it concern you that the people on the left, the blue people, if you will, don't have the same vitriol and aggression and focus that the people on the right do? I don't see any energy coming from the people on the left as it relates to LGBTQ issues.
I think there is some. You're right in the sense that the right wing seems to be particularly well organized around these issues. And it's frightening to think that the folks on the right wing believe that all of our troubles come from drag queens.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, come on. Or that transgender people, present some sort of threat. In the same week that we have a big report out of Illinois that 1,900 children were molested by Catholic priests. Predators hide in churches all over America, and they want to blame transgender people for somehow being, quote, the perverts, unquote.
Woo!
I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. Transgender people, as a group, are just trying to live their lives and frequently just kind of want to be left alone because of the negativity that they've faced in many cases their whole lives. And so they're just looking to, go along to get along. And all of a sudden, the whole world hates trans people. And we've been surrounded by trans people for at least 40, 50 years. And, of course, they existed before that. And, the idea that suddenly it's dangerous to go in a public restroom, I don't buy it. You've been going to the bathroom with trans people your entire life, and the only difference is you had no idea they were even there because they were in the stall with the door closed, doing their business, and when they left, they left. They washed their hands, and it was over. This idea that somehow trans people are waiting in bathrooms to attack, it's just not true, and there's hardly any evidence that that's even remotely possible. And so, yeah, it would be great to see our leaders on the left speaking more forcefully about this issue. But I'm not sure that things are all that different than they were 40, 50 years ago. Not really.
We're talking to Whitney Waddell, a tireless LGBTQ advocate for sure. Danny Morrison Show, KBLA Talk 1580. Do me a favor. I noticed a lot of confusion, especially on Twitter. I don't think people necessarily know what being trans is. So I don't know if the term is transgenderism. Is that a word?
I think so. It's been coined, yes.
Can you somehow describe to us, break it down, and I mean really in a third grade level for me, what is transgenderism?
A trans person is a person whose biological sex does not match their vision of themselves. That's not a dictionary definition. That's kind of just the way that I see it. And so a person can be born with body parts that seem to suggest that they are one gender when in fact they may not be. And so the plumbing, as it were, doesn't necessarily tell us who you really are until, well, you tell us who you really are. Gender is a construct that comes from the brain. It doesn't have anything to do with, what you have swinging between your legs. It's how you see yourself. It's when you look in the mirror. It's if you feel like you belong in the body you were given. And and it's hard enough to be transgender. Just never mind the wave of supremacy that's waking its way across the country. It's always been hard to be trans because everybody thinks it's like this freakish, weird, perverted thing. When in fact, as you mentioned before in the news, people are just people. Can't we just say they're human beings entitled to rights? But right now, there are over 500 laws being proposed, and some have already passed across America to take away people's bodily autonomy, their ability to be who they are, their ability to have children, their ability to parent the children they have, the ability to go to the library and check out books. It's stunning how this white supremacist bigotry is sweeping across America, and there does seem to be very little will to really stop it.
Yeah. Whitney, what do you say to those people that say, because they always bring children into the conversation when you're talking about the trans population, what do you say to those people that say they don't know what they're thinking, they don't know what they're saying, they don't even know what they're feeling, they're too young, and a majority of those people are just going to turn out to be homosexual at the end of the day? We can't make any changes to their name, to their plumbing, using your term, until they become an adult. This shouldn't even be a conversation until they turn 18. What do you say to those people that believe that?
I say it shouldn't be for us to decide about someone else's children. That if their parents, in concert with doctors and psychologists and whoever else might be involved in that decision, come to an understanding of who their child really is, then that's their decision to make. It's as a family and with their doctors, we know, of course, the best medical evidence tells us that transgender people exist. They're real, and the problems they encounter are real. And so if we have an opportunity to prevent a child from suffering in that way, we absolutely should.
I'm seeing some content on Twitter a lot, especially over the last couple weeks, where they are showing these drag queen shows in front of small children. It's one of the more aggressive posts, some of the more aggressive posts I'm seeing on Twitter, with people saying, can you believe that they are showing these drag queen shows in front of these small children? And they show drag queens moving in a cat-like fashion around small children at these events. And it's driving people crazy, especially people on the right. I think people are asking, why do children have to be involved in any of this process? It's okay to be who you are. Why bring children into the fold?
I would say, once again, this is where parents come in. Parents get to decide how to raise their children, and if parents determine that certain activities are appropriate, then that's the parent's right. And there's a big push for this concept of parental rights, except when there are parents who want to allow their kids to experience different kinds of diversity. And all of a sudden, no, we can't trust parents to parent their own kids if their kid is transgender. We can't trust parents to parent their own kid if there's a drag queen. We should, if we're going to fight for parents' rights, how come we are going to exclude the parents who are accepting? It's just wrong.
Fair enough. 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580. When we come forward, we continue the conversation with Whitney Waddell. We got to talk about a little bit of Disney. We got to talk about Bud Light. We got to talk about who else out there. We got to talk about the Dodgers. So many things to talk about with Whitney Waddell inside my Pulse 101 Danny Morrison Show, KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk about. Stay right there.
From Bakersfield to Los Angeles.
From middays to nighttime.
Like George and Wheezy, Danny Morrison is moving on up at KBLA Talk 1580.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
If your Medi-Cal is ending, Cover California is here to help. Cover California is a service from the state that helps you get affordable health insurance. In many cases, at no cost to you, just like with Medi-Cal. We have quality health plans, and we'll help you every step of the way to get the one that works for you and your family. So, if you're no longer eligible for Medi-Cal, check out Cover California. We'll keep you covered. Learn more at coveredca.com.
Mornings were made for better things than rheumatoid arthritis or RA. Xeljanz tofacitinib is a pill for adults with moderate to severe RA when tumor necrosis factor blockers did not work well or could not be tolerated. Xeljanz can help relieve joint pain, swelling, and help stop further joint damage. Xeljanz can lower your ability to fight infections. Don't start if you have one. Before and during treatment, your doctor should check for infections like TB and do blood tests. Serious, sometimes fatal infections, cancers including lymphoma and lung, blood clots, serious heart-related events, tears in the stomach or intestines, and allergic reactions have happened. People 50 and older with heart disease risk factors have an increased risk of death. Tell your doctor if you've had hepatitis B or C, have flu-like symptoms, are prone to infections, or have ever had a heart attack, stroke, clot, or other heart problems, or swelling of lips, tongue, throat, or hives. Ask your doctor about prescription Xeljanz. Visit Xeljanz.com or call 1-844-XELJANZ.
Meet Joe A, Joe B, and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect. Support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase. Make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Great. It's yours. See you then.
Nathan's Tiki-themed bar is swimming in end-of-year party bookings.
Where can I find that many servers? They want headlamps? And I'm gonna need to find a band.
He needs caterers to navigate the rising tide.
No, Mario, not your cousin's cover band.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
The rent is too damn high. KBLA joins you in calling for affordable housing. The LA Tenants Union is a diverse, tenant-led movement fighting for the human right to housing for all. The LA Tenants Union demands safe, affordable housing and union rent control. They organize against landlord harassment, mass evictions, and displacement, and mobilize for the repeal of the Ellis Act and Costa-Hawkins Act. The LA Tenants Union is on a mission to strengthen tenants' political power through education, advocacy, and direct action. To get help with your eviction or other landlord-tenant issues, take action for justice, or become a member, visit latenantsunion.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Real talk, real time, the gospel truth. You're listening to the Danny Morrison Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
In conversation inside my post one-on-one with Whitney Waddell, talking conversations involving transgenderism and topics related to the LGBTQ. I guess that'd be the best way I could describe that. I do want to know from you, though, Miss Whitney Waddell. I do an exercise on my show. It's called Top 5 Dead or Alive, and I was trying to think of one that I could hand you tonight, so I figured I'd make it pretty simple for you. You could probably help out my audience once I hand this to you at the same time. What are the 5 biggest and best role models you would point to that would help us better understand the LGBTQ? Who do you turn to? Who do you point people to and say, you need to learn more about that person? Or maybe it's a book, maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a TV show. Because I'm trying to do my best to help people learn, myself included, just more about what's going on.
That's a big question, honestly.
I know I'm springing it on you at the last minute, too, but I was like, how can we better understand? These conversations help, but I think people need homework, a homework exercise that they could do on their own, and hopefully they would take us up on it.
Well, sure. And, of course, there are multiple people who are considered sort of pioneers in our community in terms of activism, particularly after Stonewall in 1969. So throughout the 70s, there were people who were incredibly brave, risking lives, family, jobs in order to stand up for the rights of LGBTQ people. The one that people have probably heard of course, Harvey Milk.
Mm-hmm. Saw the movie.
Fought an incredible battle to prevent California teachers from being fired if they happened to be, at that time, of course, gay or lesbian. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge battle. And there are still people today who have this idea that gay people don't belong in classrooms. And yet, so often we see straight teachers are the ones who are arrested for molesting the children. And so once again, it's a non-issue.
Yeah.
But back to your question, There were two women in San Francisco during the 1950s and 60s supporting LGBT people even before Stonewall. Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon are two women that people should probably know about. There was a fella who was fighting for the rights of federal employees to keep their jobs. His name was Frank Kameny, and he was remarkable. And I'm trying to think of, there was a fella who was a soldier, and he was kicked out of the Army. I'm trying to remember his name. It's escaping me at this moment. But he has a tombstone at Arlington Cemetery that says, they gave me a medal for killing two men, and they kicked me out for loving one.
Wow, that's a great line.
And I'm sorry that I can't come up with his name off the top of my head. But those are some of the folks that I think about, that they endured particularly tougher times, because even people who might have considered themselves moderate in those days, I mean, if you weren't gay yourself, you pretty much didn't like queers.
Yeah.
And so, it was so common and so accepted. So, today we're a little better off because most people who are reasonably moderate understand that, gay people exist among us, and for the most part, they're just perfectly normal human beings who happen to live life a little differently.
I'm taken aback by the fact that you use the term queer so freely. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that not a derogatory term just as little as 5 years ago? It seems like it's in vogue once again. Did I miss something? Did I miss the memo?
No, but you understand that sometimes a community that has faced discrimination will sometimes adopt the language that the haters use to empower themselves. In the Black community, there's the use of the N-word. And, of course, as a white person, that's a no-go. But Black people often use that term fairly freely. And it's a term of empowerment when you own the language that's been used against you. And so lately, probably, yeah, you're right. In the last 10, maybe 15 years, the word queer has seen a renaissance.
Yeah.
That the word that was often used against us, and people who are older than I, will talk about how they would be gay bashed and they would be called queer while somebody was kicking the crap out of them. But younger folks especially kind of latch on to this word because, of course, the alphabet soup that is LGBTQIA+, and I have seen longer versions of that.
So have I.
It becomes cumbersome. And so queer is sort of a nice umbrella term for all of us who fit in that umbrella.
It's funny you say that because it seems like I'm on Twitter like all day, every day. And it seems like these trans conversations are turning into a backlash against the LGB. It seems like it. And it seems like the T is making people more angry against the entire group of people in the entire alphabet of the queer community. Does it concern you that there's so much aggression towards the trans population that the trickle down will have adverse effects against the L, the G, and the B?
I don't see it the way you see it.
Okay.
My experience tells me that this wave of white supremacy that we're experiencing, which encompasses, of course, say, Black voting rights, for instance, the same people who are coming after trans people, coming after queer people, are coming after immigrants, are coming after Black voting rights, are coming after. I'm not sure that you could say it starts with trans people. I think it's just hate. I think it's hate and fear. And, okay, it's wedge issues that the right wing knows they can convince people, with some weird video, they can convince the world that all drag queens are predators. It's just not true, right? But they can show a video that gets people thinking, and the next thing you know, the whole world is hating. And, this kind of scapegoating is what we saw prior to World War II and the Holocaust. And we should all be fighting against that. And for all of those marginalized communities. What really surprises me is the fact that communities like the Black community and the LGBT community are so separated, that we are not united in the fight against white supremacy, because that's what this is. And we should all be on the same team. I don't have to have the experience of being black to say black people should have human rights. And black people don't have to have the experience of being gay or being trans to say those are people and they deserve human rights. And the NAACP came out a long time ago in support of LGBTQ people, but the community really didn't follow suit. And we should all be on the same page. You remember in Bakersfield a couple of years ago before COVID, there was a girl who was harassed by police and bitten by dogs.
Yeah, of course.
Because they thought this little girl was a 6-foot man they were looking for.
That's right.
And because she was a black girl with a backpack on a bicycle, I mean, she sues the county, of course, and wins.
Yeah.
But we had a big rally. And I spoke at that rally, and we talked about how we should be on the same team because the same people who hate us hate you.
I think
and if we join together, we could stop this in a heartbeat.
I think there's a segment of the black community, they don't want to have that intersectionality conversation because for so many years we weren't able to commandeer our own movement without other groups, other social groups and racial groups, without jumping on and then taking control of it. It's like for the first time in a long time, for the first time in my lifetime, I know. It seems like we have an identity, we have a focus, we know what we want to do, we know who we're trying to become. And so when you blend in the LGBTQ community into that, it only mixes the message. And we're like, no, not yet. And we know there's black queer people out there as well. But as far as just the color, just the race, the racial group, we just want to focus on that for now. And then maybe later, we can start bringing in other groups. I'm not trying to put words in other people's mouths, but that's what I hear from certain people.
Well, fair enough. And yet, I wonder what has to happen in order for the black community to rise up. In the words of Martin Luther King, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If we can pick on any group of people, then we can pick on all the groups of people. And so it doesn't do the black community any good to see trans people or queer people in general suffering and say, well, that's not us.
I think we just got to get ours first. I think once we get to the point where we feel that we get ours, and reparations is a part of that conversation, by the way, I think that we'd be more open to other, like I said, other social and racial groups jumping on board. And I'll give you another tidbit. We're up against it here. Maybe you can answer on the other side. I got to be honest with you. The black community is very much embedded into the black church. And there are a number of black people, I'm telling you, ain't riding with the LGBTQ. They're not. This conversation I'm having tonight, my YouTube feed is dead right now, and they're always on fire. This is just one of those topics that our community is uncomfortable with. I still bring it to my show anyway because I feel we should be talking about it. Because like I said, there's a number of black queer people out there. We should be having these conversations. But it makes people uncomfortable because what you're doing is telling them to take that Bible that has told them that your lifestyle is a sin. You're trying to force them to somehow make it normal. And it troubles them. It does. Maybe you can answer that on the other side. Hold that thought. 1-800-920-1580. 1-800-920-1580. We're talking to Whitney Waddell about matters concerning the LGBTQ. Inside My Pulse 101, Danny Morrison Show, KBLA Talk 1580, News and Traffic now.
Nighttime is the right time for Danny Morrison on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Julius White. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Tina Turner has died at the age of 83. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was surprised about the news.
Tina Turner was an icon who had many stages and many amazing moments in her career.
The reports say she died in Switzerland peacefully after a long illness. Turner was known as the Queen of Rock and Roll and rose to prominence as the lead singer of the Ike and Tina Turner Revue from 1960 to 1976. Meantime, Attorney General Merrick Garland is honoring law enforcement officers for National Missing Children's Day.
There is no cause more worthy of honor. The Department of Justice is honored to stand with you.
The day highlights efforts of agencies, organizations, and individuals to protect children. I'm Julius White on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and VINnews.com.
I'm Howard Mackler, founder of Innovation Refunds. If you own a business and still haven't applied for the payroll tax refund, we want to pay a licensed tax attorney to see if you're eligible to receive up to $26,000 per employee. Go to getrefunds.com, getrefunds.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 is in the lab right now, prepping some new shows coming your way soon. More empowerment, more inspiration, more entertainment.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jazz Urbane Hour. I'm your host, Bill Banfield. We are a curated musical show that highlights contemporary cultural issues and artistry, showcasing music as a relevant and necessary arm of contemporary cultural identity.
You must learn.
Welcome. I am your host, Dr. Tyrone Howard on KBLA Talk 1580, and you're listening to You Must Learn, where we talk about education as a tool for transformation. Education in our homes, in our schools, and in our communities. Education for transformation is the tagline, and we are here to talk about why we must learn.
KBLA Talk 1580 is for discerning listeners just like you. So tell all your friends you've discovered the talk station curating smart content for smart people. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
The pandemic may be over, but many Angelinos could be at risk of losing the place they call home. It's important to know your rights as a residential renter in the city of LA. Did you know eviction protection still exists for unpaid COVID-19 rental debt that was due before March 31st, 2023? And that you have 5 days to respond to an eviction notice, also known as an unlawful detainer. Learn more about your rental rights at housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
I switched to Boost Mobile and got a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Want to know the best part?
It was free?
Nope.
The fact that it's on America's largest 5G networks?
Nope. It's the ding.
Oh yeah, love the ding.
Right? It's all about the ding. It's the dingarooski, the dingarone, the ring-a-ding-ding.
Unleash your power to save with Boost. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone when you switch. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power.
And the ding.
Limited time offer. New customers only. Available on select networks. 5G not available everywhere. One device per line. Tax excluded. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, we're Tasha,
Kill,
and Euro from KBLA's Lyric Lounge.
Check us out every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and every Sunday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Tune in as we break down some of your favorite song lyrics from all genres of music.
From gospel to pop and hip-hop to rock and everything else in between, we cover it all.
So come hang out in the Lyric Lounge with Tasha,
Teal,
and Euro every Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. and every Sunday at 6 p.m.
Let the music play.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk Radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Danny Morrison Show exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580.
Danny Morrison Show on KBLA Talk 1580, talking matters related to the LGBTQ tonight. Inside my Post 101, Whitney Waddell. Come on back in here. By the way, I'm going to read you a few comments from YouTube. You woke up my YouTube feed over the last few minutes here with your comments. Let me read a few, and you can respond on the other side here. Pretty Brown said, Mimi, I disagree with Whitney. Some black people do support the LGBTQ community. And Marcus said, this convo is becoming problematic. Mimi said, and I don't like the LGBTQ community to equate homosexuality to race. Black people are still fighting for our rights. The black community embraces everyone, sometimes to our detriment. Yes, this convo became problematic when Whitney said that the black community doesn't support the LGBTQ community. We are not a monolith. I've noticed that the white LGBTQ community doesn't always support the black community. And Kwamel said, white anything will often not support of color anything. Hence the importance of not seeing different groupings as inherently white. The floor is yours. How do you respond?
I'm not sure I said that the black community as a whole didn't support. I did say the NAACP supported, but that didn't bring with it a rush of support overall from the black community. And certainly here in Bakersfield, the black community is relatively quiet when it comes to issues related to LGBTQ. Mm-hmm. So if I extrapolated from that an overgeneralization, I do apologize for that because I don't believe that.
Okay. That's fair. Very fair. I love the apology. Let's get into these clips. We got some things going on, controversies going on, and we got to get to them before I get you out of here in the next 20 minutes here. This first story is about beer drinking. Well, sort of. As I'm sure you're aware, Bud Light made the decision to partner up with transgender social media influencer Dylan Mulvaney to continue its widespread support for the LGBTQ population. And for more information, Endless Pride was on the case. Listen.
Kid Rock purchased and shot 2 crates of Bud Light because they gifted a can to TikTok star Dylan. Self-labelled as an anti-woke expert, he proclaimed this was his view on the matter and shot the crates with an automatic gun. At the time of writing, the crates cost him $88, money straight into the pockets of the company he refused to support anymore. The beer company, which has continuously expressed its LGBTQ+ support, supporting a trans girl, has crying men in backward caps asking to be taken seriously. One comment really nailed the whole thing. Your firing stance is garbage, she said, which is probably why you missed several boxes from like 30 years away. Outstanding.
Definitely an outstanding diss. As one of the most disappointing woke white people over the last 35 years. Right alongside Phil Jackson, by the way. But the problem is, and you know I'm right, the marketing partnership with Mulvaney would go on to tank the sales of the iconic beer brand, and a number of well-known conservatives immediately called for a boycott. So what did you think of Kid Rock's antics, and do you believe that all corporations bear a responsibility to market to the LGBTQ specifically? Whitney.
That's a very good question.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah. Well, do they have a responsibility? I wish they did. I don't know that a corporation has a responsibility to market to any particular group one way or the other. You go into business to make money. And so, of course, they're looking for ways to increase their market. But if they want to have a moral standing, then they should stand with communities fighting for human rights. And, there's a lot of marginalized communities in the country that are doing that. Right. And so I was delighted some years ago to, Budweiser, was very supportive of our efforts at Gay Pride beginning in 2004 in Bakersfield. And that was really helpful as we were getting rolling. And I have always appreciated that. And I'm interested to note that I've heard conflicting reports about how all this controversy has affected them. I've read stories where they say, sales of Bud Light have collapsed, and I have read stories that they've never made so much money. And so I don't know that we know the truth, really, about how the company is going to fare as a result of their support. But I am pleased to note that they haven't really they're not saying, well, we're not going to support Pride anymore, or we're not going to not be involved in this anymore. And, it's kind of, if you compare that, say, to the Dodgers and how quickly they capitulated to some community pressure from the Catholic Church.
Yeah. We're gonna get into that in a second.
Stunning.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Yeah, that was kind of stunning.
What'd you think of Kid Rock, though? Did Kid Rock exercise his rights to protest by doing what he did, and it went viral? It's probably the first time he's been viral ever in his career.
Well, yeah. It was silly. The idea that he spent money to show everybody how he could shoot these cans of beer, it was kind of silly. But his right to freedom of speech, what they say. I may disagree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. And I'm not a big fan of Kid Rock, obviously. But he wasn't necessarily harming people. He's spewing hate. There's no doubt about that. But can he shoot a beer can? I mean, people have been shooting beer cans for hundreds of years. Go ahead. Buy the beer first.
He didn't do a good job shooting it either. It seems like he was just spraying all over the place. People are talking about his stance on Twitter the entire time. Like, he doesn't even know how to shoot a gun. What's wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of a laughing stock.
Yeah, he has been for a while. Our second story is about Target. At the beginning of this month, the retail giant Target rolled out its 2023 Pride Collection capsules in collaboration with LGBTQ plus artists and queer-owned companies. The collection includes a wide range of accessories, apparel, baby clothing, and more, like rainbow slides and drag queen merch and genderless apparel. For additional perspective, ABC7 was on the case. Listen.
Target says it is removing some LGBTQ merchandise from stores ahead of June Pride Month after threats made to some store workers. Target released a statement saying since introducing this year's collection, stores have experienced threats impacting team members' sense of safety and well-being while at work. Target declined to say which items it was removing. The Pride merchandise has been on sale since early May.
Now, Whitney, this is what I was talking about earlier in this interview. I was saying I'm scared. I'm scared that it's starting to get to the point where these white supremacists are going into these Target stores and they see Pride merchandise and they're attacking the employees. What happens when somebody takes a gun into one of these Target stores and does the unthinkable? Should we not be concerned, and should these corporations not be concerned on what's possible?
Yes. Absolutely, and they should take appropriate measures to ensure, as much as possible in this day and age, the security of their stores and their employees, no doubt, and their customers for that matter. But we shouldn't live in fear. We shouldn't let fear dictate who we are and the morality that we have. And I call upon you to think about Martin Luther King, who got death threats every day. Mm-hmm. And he knew from an early age that it wasn't going to end well for him. Mm-hmm. He knew it. And he didn't stop. He didn't say, oh, well, I have to raise my family. And he didn't say, oh, that's just too scary. He said, this is my moral obligation to stand up for human rights. And he did. And, okay, it didn't end well. And, okay, I don't want to celebrate his death. And yet, his example of standing in the face of hate, well, even today, I mean, it's just the biggest example we have in the 20th century of somebody who took that kind of stand, even though there was risk. And that's what I would like to see more of.
I think this
people who have that moral standing.
I think this leads me back to the intersectionality conversation, because the reason that a lot of black people don't identify with what you just said by using MLK in your argument is if there is a wide segment of the population that believes that homosexuality is a sin. They're not saying black people being black is a sin, but they will tell you that everything the LGBTQ population is quote unquote sinful. So it's tough to make that argument for a lot of people. I'm not saying I'm making that argument. I'm saying they'll say you can't make that equivalent.
Okay. And I would say, and I would allude back to something I kind of said earlier too, which is I don't have to have the experience or understand the experience, even like the experience of black people to understand that they're losing their human rights.
Right.
And that this is a fight for human rights. And so you don't have to like homosexuality. You don't have to like transgenderism. You don't have to understand it. You just have to say, look, these are people. And if we're going to stand up for our human rights, it's awfully selfish to say we only want ours. Because human rights don't work like that. Human rights are supposed to belong to everyone.
All right.
And for anybody, like white supremacists, stand up and say, we want our human rights, but we don't want you to have yours. So what they're really saying is we want to have privilege.
Yeah.
We want to be able to look down on you.
All right.
And that's frustrating. Now, I want to clarify because of the conversation.
Hold that thought. Tell me on the other side. You're making a good case right now. 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580, talking LGBTQ inside my Pulse 101. Whitney Waddell, Danny Morrison Show, KBLA, stay there.
From Bakersfield to Los Angeles. From middays to nighttime. Like George and Wheezy, Danny Morrison is moving on up at KBLA Talk 1580.
Reparations Task Force concludes its 15th meeting and votes on its final report, suggesting that upward of $800 billion is owed to black Californians who are descendants of slaves. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. The 9-member task force finalized its recommendations for compensating black Californians for state laws, policies, and practices that have disproportionately and negatively affected African Americans. The final report, which will be available to the public, is expected to be about 1,000 pages long. Among the recommendations made, the state of California should issue a formal apology for the perpetration of gross human rights violations and the genocide of Africans who were enslaved and their descendants. The implied admission of guilt should mitigate the harm historically inflicted on the black community, according to members of the task force. U.S. Representative Barbara Lee says reparations are not a luxury for our people, but a human right long overdue for millions of Americans.
In our community, mental health struggles can sometimes go unnoticed. The suicide rate among black youth has risen faster than any other ethnic group. Only 1 in 3 African Americans who need mental health care receives it. African American women are only half as likely as their Caucasian counterparts to seek professional mental health services. Even those who guide us spiritually can sometimes face their own challenges. 45% of pastors say they've experienced depression or burnout to the extent they need to take a leave of absence from ministry. As people of faith, it's time to acknowledge it's okay not to be okay. You can pray and get help. Visit normalizehelp.org for more information and resources. Join us in raising mental health awareness in our community. Funded by the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health and the Champion Counseling Center of Faithful Central Bible Church.
Moments like hearing my cat purr good morning mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that is spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib. Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
Real talk, real time, the gospel truth. You're listening to the Danny Morrison Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
Our remaining moments with Whitney Waddell talking matters of the LGBTQ. Inside my post one-on-one, Danny Morrison Show, KBLA Talk 1580. Before we move on to this final topic here, I want to give you an opportunity to finish your thought that you were making. Feel free.
I just wanted to say that I want to clarify that I've kind of lost my train of thought here, but it's excruciatingly important for all marginalized communities to stand together, because no one of us marginalized community makes up enough of the population to really change things. We need each other. And our movement needs immigrants. Our movement needs Latinos. Our movement needs people in wheelchairs. Our movement needs black people, in the same way that the black movement needs all of those groups. If we all came together, we would outnumber the white supremacists instantly.
I make that case all the time, by the way.
Yeah, we fight our group. We fight our fight. You fight your fight. Occasionally, there's a little crossover, right? As some members of one group will meet up with another one and join in. But there's not that sense of intersectionality, that we should all be in this together, because if any one community can be marginalized and harmed, then any other community can be marginalized and harmed, and the white supremacists win. And we could stop that. We could stop that. And again, I'm not asking people to love who I am or care about that I'm gay or want to be my best friend, but help me keep people from getting killed. Help me keep people from losing their jobs. Help me keep families together. We believe in those things, all of us together. Those are values we all share. Why can't we fight this struggle together?
From your lips to God's ears. Andy, let's jump to Nikki Haley, because we already kind of talked about the Dodgers. Let's go straight to Nikki Haley here. Our final story involves Nikki Haley, your favorite person in the world. She may not be past her prime, but her 15 minutes are way past her time. She recently gave her thoughts on Dylan Mulvaney and trans children playing in sports. Listen.
We've got biological boys playing in girls' sports. It is the women's issue of our time. Where is everyone? My daughter ran track in high school. I wouldn't even know how to have that conversation with her. How do we get our girls comfortable with biological boys in their locker room? It's not okay. Everybody know about Dylan Mulvaney? Bud Light, right? Make no mistake. That is a guy dressed up like a girl making fun of women. Women don't act like that. Yet everybody's wondering why a third of our teenage girls seriously contemplated suicide last year. What are we doing to them? We're supposed to be growing strong girls, confident girls, not ones being made fun of.
Now, I believe if you place your ear against Nikki Haley's ear, you could hear the ocean. I'm just saying. That's just me, though. But I'm going to play devil's advocate tonight. I think you and I touched on this the last time you were on. Is it not fair for me to say that a young boy who was born a boy will have better mechanics and physical traits than the girls he's competing against? Lung capacity as well. Can we really say with a straight face that it is all fair? Come on now, Whitney.
Based on the rules that the the NCAA has established,
right,
among others, yes, we can, because you can't just say, take somebody like you, Danny, for instance, and then tomorrow all of a sudden you say, oh, I'm a girl, I'm going to compete. It's not like that. They have to have undergone months, years of transitioning. And it scientifically, it shows that a person who was born into a male body loses almost all that advantage over a period of months of transitioning. And so, no, I mean, that is, her speech is one of the most hateful things I've ever heard. What are we doing to these girls? Well, when you keep referring to trans women as biological boys, who's doing the damage? Trans women are women. If we just called them women, they'd be women. But no, the right wing has stuck on to this idea and constantly referring to trans women as men. And as a result, they are creating the hate. And besides that, the whole idea that trans women might be the reason why teenage girls are committing suicide is ludicrous.
Yeah, I thought that was a step too far, I thought. Yeah.
The whole thing was a step too far, right? The idea, because they use language, and in the right wing, they're really good at framing things and saying that, you know, I get that it's a little bit weird to think about changing your body to fit the image of who you are, like the Dylan Mulvaney, right? And the idea, especially in our sexist society, that a man would give up his penis in pursuit of his own happiness, we just think that's ludicrous because we live in a sexist society where having a penis is the ideal. Mm-hmm. But guess what? It isn't for everyone. And why can't we just say people have different experiences of that, and it's different than my experience. I'll never really understand it, but I accept that it's wrong to discriminate. I accept that it's wrong to threaten harm. I accept that it's wrong to marginalize an entire group of people who, by and large, are not harming anyone, but are, in fact, simply taking steps to lead their own happy life. And why do we keep bringing up non-issues as if it's the national debt, which, by the way, is a whole other conversation. Transgender people are not ruining America. Drag queens are not ruining America, right? And I think if we quit concentrating on this scapegoating that we do, we could see that we have a lot more in common than we do different, which is why the white supremacists keep driving wedges between different marginalized communities, because they know if we ever really, all of us, got together, their days would be numbered.
Great interview. I really appreciate you coming through in a clutch the way that you did. Thank you so much for doing what you do, for fighting for people, for your marginalized population. I'll be in contact for sure to bring you on very, very soon. God bless you and everything that you do, and be safe out there, okay?
Thank you, Danny. Good night.
All right, good night. News and traffic right now. When we come forward, we continue the conversation, and I want to talk to the people inside the YouTube feed that I think were out of pocket this hour. Danny Morrison Show, KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk about. Stay there.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Julius White. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Tina Turner has died at the age of 83. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was surprised about the news.
Tina Turner was an icon who had many stages and many amazing moments in her career.
The reports say she died in Switzerland peacefully after a long